Good morning. Here it is again, third day in a row that I've done a sharing. Pretty unique, pretty unusual. But what's motivating this is the pace is picking up, becoming quicker. And what I've been doing, because usually transition periods of change, have been relatively short, and I've usually shared the experience after I had time to kind of sit on it, to kind of analyze, to kind of take a look. But this time, because it's extended one, it's actually from April 25th between May 21st that I was in a turmoil. The only comfort and solace, the only centering time was through my meditation practice. It was only during when I was actively engaged in my meditation that I could settle down. The rest of the time was kind of spent in a state of anticipation and not really in the best sense of the word, because there was more of a dread's too strong. I'm looking for it's more of a concern about what was going on, and it was preoccupying me to the extent that it was getting really hard to focus on my daily deeds, my life sustaining efforts. And fortunately, they're down to a minimum: once a week of shopping, once a week of meeting with friends, sharing with the friends, once a week. And other than that, other than my brother, we'd go into surfing, or maybe if we're lucky, we'll go up to a stream with my friend Rob. But it's been minimal. But even so, in the minimal amount of things I needed to do, it took effort. It took some diligence to try to come back from wherever the realms that I was in. And as I've mentioned, May 21st, I talked about dark skies, because I could feel an approaching storm. And storm, if nothing else, brings disruption, doesn't it? Life, as we normally live it, is altered by a storm, and the dark skies were a harbinger of things to come. But I think most importantly here, I'll talk about the distancing. Yesterday I talked about unencumbered, I believe. Yes. And it was a process, cultivating indifference. Then sitting by the river, and this was totally spontaneous, sitting by the river, separate, truly witnessing life as it passed me by, this endless flow of the river. And feeling an amazement that how indeed could I separate myself from life? Well, after I experienced this, I realized that it was by disengaging 100% with any sense of responsibility to life, any sort of participation, just disengage. To what end? To what means? I wasn't sure. I just knew that this was even more important. I mean, a certain amount of disengagement allowed me to witness, to sit on the side of the river. That involved, but I realized as I came back from just experiencing, and I have to say, my time on the riverbed was quite idyllic, quite peaceful. I was content. I felt a sense of relief. I talked about a lightness. I just felt like a burden had been taken off my shoulders because I was being allowed the luxury from separating. And it was a first time experience for me. It was something new. I've certainly always been a witness, but the witness was more involved with witnessing what the rest of me, the self, what my body, what my mind, what my emotions were doing. It was watching myself, witnessing my thoughts, witnessing my actions, witnessing my responses to any given situation. This was the witness that I was very familiar with. It's been a constant companion since early days, the earliest days, and I can remember being able to put together a conscious thought while I was still in the cradle. But this was a new kind of witnessing because I was witnessing life. It was impersonal witnessing. It had always been personal witnessing. Now I was to be shown or to experience another facet of the witnessing experience. To be disengaged and to watch, to simply watch the river of life ebb and flow. Sometimes it was lots of water, like there'd been a big storm upstream. Other times the water was more meandering, more fluid, more peaceful. Sometimes it was churning up on rocks that would suddenly appear. But again, absolutely nothing that was happening in the river affected me as a witness sitting on the riverbank in any way whatsoever. Dispassionate, which I'm sure is part of disengaging. And what was I conscious of? Because I was conscious of my awareness. outside of the flow of life. I was conscious of it. And this is when I had that epiphany about words. That words unavoidably lead to action. And of course, for every action, there's a reaction. So words not only lead to action, they consequentially result in reaction. So now you get two things. Your words create action, and action inextricably leads to reaction. So it's a more it's a more complicated process than just accepting that words prompt actions. So this was my conscious awareness in my witness. And this is the first time, as I'm sharing now, that I realize my witness always felt outside, looking down on me in the corner of my nursery when I was a baby. Who's that, Mom? Up in the corner. I'm sure I couldn't form words yet, but that's what I remember pointing to the corner, and they were quite puzzled. What could he be seeing? Little did they know. But now I was the witness. Which was really, maybe that's part of this whole, I'm sure it's a big part of this whole transition that I'm experiencing. Everything that was me was a witness, because I wasn't in the stream of life as far as I knew. I was outside of it, watching, listening. Never can forget smell. My most primary sense. Everything is predicated upon what this rather large nose is taking in. Smell is such an important part of my process, such an important part of my experiencing the world. So the subject matter for me was this, other than watching, witnessing, the process of consideration, what words, as beautiful as they are, I know I've been gifted. Words come easily to me, and I appreciate them I appreciate this gift that I've been given. But I was looking them in a new light. And at the same time, trying to evaluate. I mentioned last time that I had spent 9 months in total silence, 9 months without speaking. And what I didn't talk about is how hard it was to begin again. It really wasn't hard at all to just stop. It was starting again that was difficult. Could have been easy just to continue. Who knows where I would be? I'd probably be sitting up on the side of that volcano on the big island of Hawaii. Who knows? Who knows where silence would have led me? But I do feel that experiment, that experience is in the future for me. I do feel that I will revisit a time to not speak, to not verbalize at all. It's not a stretch, it's not difficult to see that as a reality. But anyway, doing my witnessing twofold, and I got so engrossed in just, as you can imagine, just life with all its intricacies, with all its flavor, with all its song, its rhythm, its melody. That's pretty much all consuming just to take that in. But I became aware that I had more, and that it was working on words. So this was my disengagement. And what this disengagement immediately, because I'm sharing that most the day after, or 2 or 3 days, I have to go back and look to see when I did words lead to action, when I did sitting by the river. It's probably been a week or 2. But now the process is inextricably speeding up. Now, I'm not sure if this will continue. I don't even care if it continues being rapid, but most likely, as all things, it will slow down again at some point. But now it's just bombardment of my spiritual being. So, to what end was I disengaging? I wasn't sure, because results, consequences are not normally my first consideration. I've learned to trust, to leave it in the hands of the all-knowing. My level of acceptance is extremely honed, because, quite frankly, I've paid the price more than once of ignoring it, overthinking it, considering, evaluating in my old process of sorting, filing, and storage. No time for any of that. I'm past the days of sorting, filing, storing, of cleaning, of finding wisdom in knowledge. I'm past that now. It served me well for quite a time. But the only part of the process that the end game was accessing it. What good is knowledge, much less wisdom, if it's inaccessible, if you can't find it, if you don't have a good sorting storage? You need to access, you need to be able to find it. Art has little value. You've just stored it. To what end? That's the question. But now I know, and I learned some time ago that not to worry. When I need to know it, I will know it. And if I don't need to know it, I don't need to know it at that particular moment. It will come to me through a dream, through almost any kind of impetus, a smell, a sight, the moon, mountains, the ocean. So, but I was still curious about, okay, unencumbered. I understood that, there I do it again. Just the release, just of letting go. Letting go of the attachment, letting go of desire, letting go of questions. And it seems that letting go of words is in my future. How distant, I don't know. I've let go of others' words. I have no need for words of others. And I'm talking about not words like, how are you, I love you, my dear friend, my wife, that personal connection. There'll always be words, but I'm talking about spiritual words from somebody that I respect, some source that I respect. I will continue to use the Tao Te Ching because it's just such a useful tool. I shared yesterday some of the beauty of using this, but I don't know. I don't use it often. In fact, a few times a year, but it never lets me down. Because it says in much more succinctly and infinitely more beautiful what's important to me at any given moment, what's critical for me, what should I be paying attention. Okay, so the consequence of disengagement, other than a loosening and a release of burden, has been the understanding that I'm unencumbered. Unencumbered means that you're free from attachment. You're free from certainly worry. You're free from speculation. I told you that I'm released from my process of sorting, filing, storing. I went through that for years. Most of my life, I guess, was a process of that. But unencumbered means that I'm free from even doing this. So the question I had mentioned before, that was my useful, that's what having a fine mind is useful for. A mind is totally useless for any kind of telling you what to do, of any kind of decision making, of any kind of insight. It's simply a tool. So now that I'm beyond using it as I've used it for several years, of sorting, filing, and storing. Right now, as I look at you, I just realize, well, if it's not going to be doing those chores, what's its future? My mind is a little bit anxious. Well, don't you need me anymore? And I'm saying, I'm certain I do. I just have to rediscover, redefine how you can best serve me. And this is a question that comes out of this unencumbered, this examination of the consequences of words, this new independence from words from any other source other than my words. Where is this leading? Well, I'm not spending much time on that because I simply am incapable of knowing until the time comes, and I will know. So now I'm understanding that I have to reinvent my relationship to my mind. How will it best serve me? And I hinted at the most important occurrence, the thing that I'm just getting my mind around, is clarity. Clarity, that most elusive characteristic of my Buddhahood, of my current state of evolution, evolvement. And my takeaway from my experience as witnessing life from the outside, plus merging myself and the witness and my spiritual being have united, have become one and the same. And slowly the light brightened. It's like a dimmer switch and somebody just was turning it up. This is clarity. It's not to silence the mind. My monkey mind, trust me, is well and fine. And I'm quite fond of it. It's a sense of mirth. It makes me laugh all the time. It keeps me from taking myself too seriously, which I have a tendency to do. Always have this tendency to, life is serious. I'm a serious I'm a serious. Lighten up. So now I'm getting the glimpses of clarity. At least I know where it is. It's in the merging of the witness and the being. That's what's happened recently. And now I'm beginning the process. First was a realization. Aha, finally I figured out what clarity is. I'm still working on what clarity means. What does it represent? How will it change me? How will it enrich? How will it add to what I bring to the table? What will it mean in terms of my sharing? What will it mean in terms of what I can see? This is what I'm calling today unlocking clarity. First, I had to stumble on it. Again, 60 years of meditation practice, 33 years of single-minded, focused, disciplined search. And when it changed for me between unabiding and abiding awakening was this process of giving up. Well, this time I don't feel I didn't give up anything. Something was added. This experience was just spontaneously given to me. And the consequences are yet to be known. But how could I have a bigger consequence, a bigger result than recognizing finally what clarity means for me? And it wasn't unattainable. It had to be gifted. First, the process of giving up. And now the process is waiting till you're gifted. And I had no idea what was going. In fact, I had given up on thinking, well, clarity is not really important. Maybe it's not in my future. Maybe it's not. Maybe I don't need it. Maybe it's more than I built it up to be. But I'm at the inkling of understanding how incredibly altering is experiencing this gift of clarity. I'm unlocking